This is the 2022 Hyundai Santa Cruz. In this episode, we're going to take it on the freeway, check out all the features, and then we're taking it to the test hill. All that and more right now on Driving Sports TV.
If you've looked at trucks lately, you probably noticed that they've not only become bigger and more complex, they also can be tremendously expensive. But not everybody needs the ability to tow a house or climb a mountain. Some folks just want to move boxes to storage or toss kayaks in the back without compromising economy or drivability. A one-size-fits-all option that gives the benefits of a crossover and the utility of a truck. In the 1970s, my dad had a red Datsun pickup. The engine made less than 100 horsepower, and it couldn't tow pretty much anything. But it was good at carrying kids, bikes, wet dogs, firewood, or whatever else our young family needed to move around. It was small, but immensely useful. Though we're not allowed to carry kids in the back of a truck anymore, so many other aspects of an active lifestyle could benefit from the utility of a small truck. It's time, in a way, to turn back the clock. Ford, being a leader in trucks, saw this coming. You can find our review of the Maverick pickup later this year. It is based on the popular Bronco Sport unibody chassis and can be had in two-wheel drive hybrid trim, starting at $21,490 including destination. Pay about $4,000 more for an all-wheel drive powertrain. The other new entry is more of a surprise. This is the 2022 Hyundai Santa Cruz. Based on the Tucson crossover, the Santa Cruz features stunning looks in an easy-to-drive package. It starts at $24,390 including destination. The model we're looking at today is the loaded Limited with all-wheel drive, upgraded tech, and a turbo engine. Price as you see it here, $40,945 including destination.
One thing I have to commend Hyundai on is the fact that this looks so much like the concept that they unveiled a little while ago. It looks like a concept car come to life, all the way down to the 20-inch wheels. Yeah, 20-inch wheels. So between this and the Tucson, there are some significant differences. First off, the all-wheel drive system has been tuned differently. Also, it has a longer wheelbase, where the Tucson is about 108 inches long. This has a 118-inch wheelbase. Yeah, 10 inches longer. What they do with that extra space is they give you plenty of room in the second row, and then also, of course, tack on a truck bed. So that's the whole point, right?
Our test vehicle has the larger of two engine options, a 2.5-liter turbocharged, direct-injected four-cylinder that makes up to 281 horsepower and 310 pound-feet of torque. It's connected to an 8-speed dual-clutch transmission. EPA rates this setup at 19 miles to the gallon in the city and 27 on the highway. When properly equipped, Hyundai says the Santa Cruz, with a turbo engine and all-wheel drive, can tow up to 5,000 pounds. Though the thought of towing that much with this vehicle does make me uncomfortable.
This is, of course, using Hyundai's H-Track all-wheel drive system. That is based on a clutch pack in the middle. That means that is predominantly front-wheel drive. It'll then engage the clutch pack to send power to the back when necessary. Now, if you want to tell the computer that you would really like all-wheel drive to be working at its maximum capacity, you can hit the center lock button. But do not confuse it with a differential lock. It doesn't even have a center differential to lock. So that is a common misconception about the Hyundai all-wheel drive systems. Hyundai has definitely thought through this whole truck thing. They include everything from a easy release gate to a stowable cover. It even has its own trunk. It's very similar to what you would find in the Honda Ridgeline, but in the Ridgeline, it's much deeper, making it more useful. Still, this does have a drain, so you could fill it with ice and use it as an ice box. On the side, you have these little sliders that are easy to move. And then you also have two cubbies on the side. This one is just a cubby. And then on the other side here, we have a power socket. Close that up. Kind of nice that they include the pull strap. Now let's check out the second row. Can an adult fit back there? In the second row, we have a sliding glass window. There's also a 60-40 split on the seats. Both these sides pull up, and there's an additional storage bin right here. Although I think personally I would prefer not to have the bin and just have more of a flat floor. But, you know, everybody's different. Okay, this seat is where I would be sitting. I'm 6'1", legs torso proportionate. I have room, although not a lot. It is a little snug back here. Got a little basket there for items. I have a cup holder on the side and 2 USB sockets as well as some vents. But I don't have any controls. I don't have any heat in the second row, which when you're getting into the mid-40s is something I would like to see, which is especially weird because Hyundai actually offers that usually on their more expensive trims in the second row. And the sunroof is so small, I'm feeling a little claustrophobic in here. But it's not too bad. I mean, I do fit, and I think that's kind of the key thing here. And they had to make room for the truck bed because they only extended the vehicle an extra 10 inches over the Tucson. And yeah, I think this is where you lost the space. But it's doable. Of course, you don't buy one of these to be a passenger. You want to drive it. It's an interior that I am familiar with because it looks just like the Tucson. Started on up, we get a nice gate cluster, and I really like how this doesn't have a shade, yet it's perfectly easy to read even in bright direct sunlight. It's just kind of an amazing thing. I also like the design of the gauge cluster itself, though it doesn't really give you much in terms of customization because all you can pretty much do is toggle through settings here. I am averaging about 20 in mixed driving, which is a little lower than the EPA rates. You can see navigation. The display itself does change slightly if you go into different drive modes. It'll go from normal to sport, smart, and to snow. You will note that there is no off-road mode. Those are not available in US market cars because of a licensing issue. Hyundai does hope to have it cleared up soon, but don't expect a car you buy today to get that update. Whether Hyundai does it or not, that's on them. And then the steering wheel here is really nice. It's sculpted. The plastics here I think are a little on the cheap side, but I do like the leather, and it does have paddle shifters at this price range. You also get lane detection with auto steer, and that's just part of the advanced safety stuff that we're kind of, you know, coming to a point of just expecting in these vehicles. This one does come nicely loaded. It has collision mitigation. It has, of course, the adaptive cruise control with lane centering, blind spot warning, rear cross traffic alerts. Let's put it into reverse here. It even has a full surround view camera, which you can configure, and you can use it a bit like a trail cam off-road, which we will test later.
If you're not used to driving a truck, you will notice that there is no warning for when your bed is left open. Even though this is pretty normal for trucks, I would still like to see some indication on the dash for the inevitable time that I forget to close it up.
Now, as much as I like this display, moving to the center stack, I think visually for new buyers, it's amazing. However, I have concerns about long-term viability of this system because this is all piano black. You are touching piano black, somewhat touch-sensitive buttons. And I just can't imagine that that's going to look good after 5 years of touching with dust and dirt on it, and which basically creates little micro scratches. This is going to wear something horrendous, I think. Time will tell. Maybe they have some coating on it that'll make it better, but I doubt it. I much prefer physical buttons. This looks good, but I think from a practicality perspective, it's not going to be great long term. We do get dual zone climate control here. Lots of controls with that. And my seat does have a lot of power adjustments in addition to being both heated and cooled. And then the steering wheel also is heated. Another thing I like to see in these vehicles. Because, if you're getting an all-wheel drive little mini truck, you're going to drive it in the snow, right? It's kind of nice to get in and warm your hands up on the steering wheel. Now, because this is a truck, they went with more of a truck-like shifter unit there for controlling the automatic transmission, and this is an 8-speed automatic twin clutch but it's a wet twin clutch, so I hope that it doesn't overheat when we take this off-roading later. Below the transmission thing, we have all these various little buttons. We can hit the lock button, which basically tells the computer to lock up that center clutch as much as possible. We have hill descent control, and then I can also turn on and off the parking cameras right here. Now let's dive into this display. We've looked at this on other vehicles. It is touch-based. There is no button set up to control it. The home screen is super simple, and I think it's a little too simple. I'd like to see some more information here. But once you dive into it, once you decipher what the graphics mean, it's pretty straightforward. I mean, we have a map here. Let's go ahead and try a voice search.
Please say a command.
Find the nearest Cafe Ladro. Hey, it found it. Let's go to the one in Urban Plaza. Okay, so we know that nav works pretty good. Let's go back to the home screen. How do I get to the home screen? I see nothing that says home screen. What's that? Can I pull that? Oh, that's a little side tray. Oh wait, why is it controlling that? I don't get that. Well, anyway, now I have my home button back. I can go to, there's Blue Link. I can do climate up here if I don't want to do it down here. It gives me a few more options on the side. Let's look at XM satellite radio. So here,
running a large phase 3, a randomized.
We have the kind of old style tube numbers for some reason. I just find that to be a bit hokey. I think it's unnecessary. I much prefer clarity in my systems as opposed to funky retro hipster style digits. Maybe you're different. Great. This also supports Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Wireless is not available in the fully loaded trim for some reason. However, I can plug it in. Now we have Apple CarPlay. And I really like Apple CarPlay on this display. It's just a nice, like, ultra-wide display. It's kind of cool. Again, turn that down. I would just prefer a knob to turn. Did nobody learn anything from the Honda debacle? And then, of course, with CarPlay, I can have my multifaceted overview page, which is nice. Even though it doesn't support wireless CarPlay, it does support wireless charging. Climate control is dual zone, which you would expect at this price point, and you get. Again, it's using the little touch things, which aren't great, but they're what you get with this vehicle. Okay, so overall, I do like this interior. I find it to be attractive. I just have some concerns about long-term wear of some of the touch surfaces. But, you know, I like the fact that it has the big shifter. I like the fact that it has ventilated seats. And I think the visibility forward is quite good. The C-pillar, however, you can't really see well through that, so that's not ideal. There is this plastic right here, I think could be a little bit nicer. It's hard plastic here, it's soft over here, it looks much better on this side. But yeah, I think this is pretty good. The sunroof is on the small side, but I'm glad to see that there is a sunroof option here. And the visors, that's pretty good. A little pull-out would be nice here. Some have a little extension, this does not. I do, however, get a mirror, but it's not illuminated. Huh, kind of surprised it's not illuminated. Right, well, we've looked at all the features. Now let's take it onto the freeway as we head out to our off-road test course. Yes, we are going to test this on the Sidewinder. So we're going to start this review off where a lot of people are going to drive their Santa Cruz, and that is on the freeway. Merging onto the freeway is easy with a 2.5 liter turbocharged engine, and yeah, it's true, both top and bottom trims have a 2.5 liter. However, upper trims have a turbo 2.5 liter. This is good for 281 horsepower and over 300 pound-feet of torque, which makes merging and driving really easy. This is, of course, loaded with the latest in safety technology. We have collision mitigation, blind spot warning. It also has lane detection with adaptive cruise control. Let's give that a try. Turn it on by pushing a button here. I can turn on or off lane detection, and then I can set my distance and voila, it'll steer itself. Now, of course, this is a level 2 system, which means that it does require driver intervention. This is not an autopilot system. But then again, what really is these days? There aren't any, at least none that you can buy today in the US. Now, tracking is quite good, even in this little spittle of rain. It's doing a fine job of keeping centered on the track. And so far it hasn't complained to me, which is kind of nice. Usually these systems complain almost immediately that you take your hands off the wheel. This one's doing little corrections. It's pacing the vehicle in front of me. Now it says put your hands on the wheel. Okay. So why would you want a level 2 automation system? Well, it really helps with long distance driving. That's kind of the whole point. To make it so the driver doesn't have to always steer and keep their muscles tight, and then you end up with like sore shoulders. This kind of alleviates that on long trips. Now, granted, people who do long trips all the time learn how to adjust for that, but some people, every few months, maybe once or twice a year. And this system does really good. It's tracking dead center. It's finding the vehicle in front of me. It's not freaking out over every little thing. I actually rather like it. Now, you might have noticed when I switched lanes there that the center gauge cluster actually turns into a blind spot camera view, which is kind of a cool trick. It doesn't excite me, but I'm sure some people will be like, whoa, that's pretty awesome. And visibility isn't too bad, although that C-pillar is way wider than I would like, but it's serviceable. I don't feel like I'm being constricted in my view here. The interior is nicely illuminated from the sunroof, and just overall, it's just a nice cabin to hang out in. And this seat is actually really deep and fairly comfortable. Now, I am going to be driving all the way out to our test hill, so I will report later as to how comfortable this seat is after an hour of driving, because our test site is an hour and a half outside of town. But first, let's jump off the freeway and check out how the Santa Cruz does on some side roads, where we'll do a 0 to 60 and also test out these different drive modes. If you hear any thuds in the back, it's because I have gear in the truck bed, and of course, yeah, that kind of flops around. There are a variety of drive modes here. Now, in normal, power, a little slow to come on, but once it builds boost, it gives you a little get up. Now let's switch it into sport. I do like the gauge animation, that's kind of cool. Although I would like it to give more of a change, like give me a different style of view. But at least it does change colors, so you absolutely know what mode you're in. So even just driving on the road here, it is kind of giving me little taps to stay in the lane, because it does have a lane detection system that is fairly obtrusive. However, I just hit a button there and it'll shut it off. So if you don't like it, you don't have to turn it on. Now that we're in sport mode, the throttle doesn't feel much different. I guess it's a little quicker to come on. The steering is much tighter though. I much prefer this feeling in the steering rack. It's more precise, still a little bit on the vague side, but it is responding to inputs quicker and doing more with every little turn, which is good. Other drive modes include Smart, where it basically will try to predict what you're doing based on how you're driving. And then there's also Snow, which I believe starts out in second gear. Let's see if Snow is really slow off the line, because you don't want wheel spin in the snow. Oh yeah, that's so sluggish. Wow. Yeah. Okay. Unfortunately, we're too early in the season. We're not going to see any snow to test that in, but we'll have to just assume that that will work fine. Okay, let's go back to sport mode. Looks like we have our gauge cluster up. Let's go ahead and test a 0 to 60. Now, because this has a 118-inch wheelbase, yes, 10 inches longer than the Tucson it's based on, it does mean that turning around isn't quite as precise. Let's line up here for a 0 to 60. We're using our GPS timer, which does allow for 1 foot of rollout, just so you know. Everybody times a little bit differently, which is why it's hard to compare numbers. So you can only really compare our numbers against our own numbers. We're in sport mode, and there's nothing else to really do here. We're just going to throttle it and go. 2,000, 2,500 is actually where the boost kicks in, so that's pretty quick. And 60, 6.25 seconds. It's actually quite good for a vehicle of this size. Nicely done, Hyundai. Because this has a multi-link suspension setup in the back, which is a way more advanced setup than you would find on a typical pickup, it just handles rough surfaces and curves better than a traditional pickup. So if you're used to a crossover or a car and you want the utility of a pickup, but you don't really want to drive something that drives like a pickup, this is a great option. Now, you just need to make sure that it meets all of your criteria. This particular model can tow up to 5,000 pounds, which is quite a lot. And personally, I would never want to tow 5,000 pounds with a vehicle this small. To me, that is nuts. I would probably tow no more than about maybe 4,000 in a pinch, but probably I wouldn't feel comfortable anything over 3,500 pounds, which is what the lower versions of this vehicle also tow. Because you don't really want to be towing something that is just gonna, totally push your tow vehicle around. You want something where the tow vehicle is in command. And considering this thing weighs under 4,000 pounds, you have a huge differential there. So if you're pulling something 5,000 pounds with a vehicle that's under 4,000 pounds, to me, that doesn't seem like a good idea. However, Hyundai says you can do it. Maybe you want to limit that to short distances though, but that's just me. Even though the model I'm testing is the high-end limited and it's priced at around 40 grand, you don't have to spend that much, obviously. These start at around $28,000 for a naturally aspirated version. That is with two-wheel drive. Add on a little money and you can get all-wheel drive. So you can get this with all-wheel drive and a standard 8-speed automatic, for mid-20s, which is, to me, a pretty good value. Now, will it do everything that you want? Don't go into it thinking this is an F-150. Clearly it's not. It's not even a Frontier for that sake. It is its own thing. So just think of this as a crossover that happens to have a truck bed. And if that's something that is useful for you, say you want to go to the garden center or you need to just haul some stuff around that's not terribly heavy, the Santa Cruz is a great choice. Now that I've been driving for about an hour and a half, these seats are really comfortable still. They are wrapped in leather and they hold me nicely, but I especially like how deep they feel. I have a lot of lateral support, which I really didn't expect in a small pickup. When I have a turbocharged engine, I have a tendency to really use the turbo a lot and get into boost. When you do that, your MPGs plummet. As such, I'm getting about 20 MPGs overall with a little side road and a lot of freeway. According to the EPA, we should be getting 22 on the highway. And I think that that's probably achievable on a level surface with a really light throttle. So now that we're on the dry side of Washington State, it's time to hit our test hill and see how well the all-wheel drive system works in this Santa Cruz. And on these side roads, I can actually switch it into sport. So sport mode does something more than just engine and steering wheel and shift points. It also will tell the all-wheel drive system to push more power to the back. So just driving normal around the hills here. And it is primarily front-wheel drive. And you feel that from so much power. I mean, this is a lot of power for a little vehicle. Yeah, it feels like I'm pulling around the corners. Now, when I switch into sport mode, it'll be more aggressive at putting power to the back. Yes, much more neutral turn-in. It's just a better driving experience. And that experience extends onto gravel. Let me show you.
First, the Santa Cruz is set to traction off and normal drive mode. Here you can see power kick to the back wheels after one full rotation of the wheel. Next, in sport mode. It basically looks the same. Even in this view, side by side, you'd be hard-pressed to see the difference in how power is transferred in this one scenario. Keep in mind, all-wheel drive systems monitor a lot of real-time inputs, and this result is merely for a hard start on a slippery surface. kind of a loose gravel surface here. Let's floor it into the corner and see how much power goes to the back. It just doesn't want to get too disrupted. Nope. But I am feeling power going to the back. So yeah, H-Track for the win, at least in this situation. Okay, enough goofing around. Now let's head to our test hill and put this all-wheel drive system to the test. Here on our test hill, we have a number of very complicated courses. I'm going to start off with something very simple, testing out the hill descent control. Now, hill descent control is very useful if you're going down a very steep hill that has loose surface, difficult traction, something where you need to go straight, and sometimes just hitting the brakes isn't good enough. This will manage both braking and everything else to make sure that the vehicle stays true. And I love this front view camera. That is a gorgeous front view camera. I want more cars to have that. Let's go ahead and put this into the right mode. Now I have Smart for the drive mode, which doesn't really matter. So once I get to the steep part here, I just hit this button for downhill brake control, and it turns on. Now I don't have anything I can manage here. Many vehicles, if you toggle cruise control, it will adjust the speed. Not so here. Okay, paddle down, paddle up. Nope. You get one size fits all. Okay, I'm going to put the brakes on. That upper section, pretty normal, very flat. Down here, we have a number of offset ditches. So I want to see how well this does keeping the vehicle true, or if we're going to go too fast. It is kind of a one-size-fits-all, which isn't really ideal. So that's okay for basic downhill situations, but anything too complicated and you're going to want something more advanced. Like some of the vehicles that allow you to change speed increments all the way down to 1 mile per hour. Because this Santa Cruz has 8.6 inches of ground clearance, I feel pretty confident taking it over the logs. We haven't taken a lot of crossovers over this yet, but even the Subaru Crosstrek was able to get over it. And yeah, the Crosstrek has a good all-wheel drive system, but it doesn't have any like extra special off-road features. So this bodes well for Hyundai's H-Track. So just slowly easing up. Now with the Crosstrek, I actually did have all-terrains. Now they were all-terrain trails, but they were all-terrain tires on it. So right here, you should be able to see the articulation in the back, how high that wheel lifts. That just demonstrates that this doesn't have the same kind of articulation you would find in a real truck. Now let's look at some features here to make sure that we're in the right mode. A lot of people last time I had issues with H-Track said, why don't you try snow mode? So let's do snow mode. That should cut throttle and be more aggressive with power distribution. Let's see if it's true. Slow throttle. It's keeping, oh, it's trying not to spin the wheels. Ooh. Hey, internet, I think you were right. Now, first log, you have to be really careful. Some manufacturers are very, very, very particular about getting scratches on their cars. Hyundai's one of them. So I want to make sure I'm not hearing any scraping. Throttle is all the way down. Now the way that these clutch pack systems work, because yes, this does use a clutch pack in the middle, I can hit middle lock, and that doesn't actually lock a differential because there's no differential. There is a clutch pack, and it will engage and disengage as necessary. Let's kind of back up just a little bit to get a little bit more momentum through this. I do like that front camera, but it does shut down quite a lot. Come on, you gonna do this? I'm full throttle, and it's just cutting power and having trouble getting over this log. This I don't think is doing anything. It's trying. Now you might be asking, why is there no trail mode? And I think that comes down to licensing of the tech. Yes, everybody else has it, but for some reason, Hyundai is unable to put it into their USA cars. I believe Canada has it and rest of the world. We, however, do not.
Well, snow mode isn't getting us through that, so I'm going to go to smart mode. I'm going to back up just a little bit. Oh, also we're on 20-inch wheels, which are not great. Come on, you going to get through this? Man, it's struggling over these logs. It's kind of what I was expecting. Oh. Now I have to be really careful when charging, because when you charge, you can high center, scrape the bottom, dent something. Oh, did we get it? Oh, okay, that was a bit of a struggle, but it did get through it. Considering this struggled on the logs, I'm going to do the bypass. So the hard part is like a foot deep of just like sand, even for the most advanced four-wheel drive systems. The bypass is really just a super steep grass road, and we kept the grass on it so that the hill stays intact and we're not just digging into sand. Okay, feel that power shift around, getting us up the hill. I'm just crawling up because I want the all-wheel drive system to do the work. I don't want it to be merely momentum getting us up. Now I do need to carry a little momentum around this corner. Keep throttled in, throttle in, throttle in. Come on, you got this. Oh boy. I've been to this party before. So the problem here is I have a bush right behind me, and it's going to scratch this thing up something fierce if I hit it. So I'm going to try to navigate around this. I did not expect this part of the course to be so incredibly difficult, but it's that soft sand. Okay, we're just going to have to charge this. Otherwise, I'm going to back up into a barbed wire fence. Okay, throttle in. Can we get through it? Through it. Come on. Yes! Did it. Now, I know normally I'm like, oh, let the all-wheel drive system do the work. But yeah, I don't want to be sitting there all day. I could tell we were just going to go for a repeat of the issue that I had with the Crosstrek. And the Crosstrek had all-terrain trail tires on it. This, just all seasons. Even considering that this just had all-season tires on it, I would say it just did okay. The fact is that the H-Track system, when really pushing its limits, just cannot redistribute that power fast enough and strong enough to get you out of really sticky situations.
We haven't yet driven the new Ford Maverick, but if you're looking for a small, inexpensive all-wheel drive truck, we did price out both the lowest cost Ford and the Hyundai options. A Maverick XL can be optioned with the 250 horsepower 4-cylinder turbo engine, 8-speed automatic, and all-wheel drive for $24,795 including destination. A base Santa Cruz SE with 191 horsepower naturally aspirated 4-cylinder engine and all-wheel drive can be had for $25,490. Of course, the Santa Cruz includes lane keep assist as standard equipment. Adding that to the Maverick with the 360 option package raises its price to $25,335. That means price is basically a wash. If you're trying to decide and you have dealers for both vehicles nearby, I think the real factor will come down to which design you prefer, the conservative approach of Ford or the retro future bold look of the Hyundai. Either way, we could be entering a new era of small truck nirvana, and we are totally here for it.
For Driving Sports TV, I'm Ryan Douthit. Thanks for watching. Be sure to subscribe, like our videos, and share them. And tell us, what do you think? Is this new Santa Cruz the one you want, or are you going to keep on waiting?